That Davis Show. We are back. We got an interview out right now with Matt Peck from from Bulls Outsider, I should say, and also from Locked On Bulls podcast. It's out right now, so go and check that out. Good interview talking about the upcoming draft. We're definitely going to get into the draft today. We got a lot to get into. We got some Bears and what took place. We got Theo stepping down from the Cubs and the type of sense that it makes. And then we got hate and slander and stuff that nature. My name is Kenneth Davis. I'm your host. Follow me at That's Davis. The executive producer of the show. His name is Ryan Bukoveski. Follow him at Ryan B. Ski and also Ryan B. Ski 1. He's the one keeping all this boat afloat. How you doing, Ryan? Real quick, everybody. Ryan's been sick, too. Ryan's been under the weather. Good thing he didn't have COVID, but it seems like he may have had the flu. Did you do any throwing up?
I had nausea, but I didn't throw up.
Okay, so it's not the stomach flu.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling?
More of a sinusy thing. I mean, I was feeling better, and then the Bears played, and I'm sick again.
I gave it back to you. Oh yeah.
So I'm back where I started.
Oh yeah. All right. So everybody get sending Ryan your prayers and your energy to hope that he feels better. We don't like having him down here.
No, if you want to make me feel better, we need to start a Bears thing of fire Ryan Pace. That's what I need. We need the Gar Pack signs, the billboards from the day. We need the Ryan Pace gone sign.
Did you see what he just did there? He went for the top. Because, see, they're going to try to trick us with the low-hanging fruit, which is Matt Nagy. No. Go to the top, all right? So get it all out, all right? Clean the whole house out. Just don't clean the basement, all right? Clean the attic, clean the main floor, clean all of it. Don't sit there and let Ryan Pace make another decision because nobody told Ryan Pace he had to sit there and hire Matt Nagy. All right, like that was his decision to hire Matt Nagy. Right. That was his decision not to put any type of draft equity in that offensive line. So you go to the top, and you still got this great defense, and let somebody, I've said it before, go get you someone's general manager and make him vice president or president of football operations over there at Hallis Hall. That's right. Someone was credible.
Bump Sweaty Teddy into something, whatever, and promise, Bill Belichick, president, whatever. And get somebody in here that knows what the hell they're doing.
Facts. So, all right, we're going to get into that a little bit later. We got to definitely go from the top, taking it from the tippy. Oh, my people. I got a little bit of agitation. This kind of comes from USA Today, or it does come from USA Today. Lindsey Graham, a key ally for the president, said that he's spoken with officials in a number of key states about the presidential election and ballot counting, raising questions about the senator's role as the President Trump continues to promote baseless claims about fraud. So this is the kicker. Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, who's, if you didn't know, is a Republican, accused Graham Monday of pressuring him to find ways to exclude and invalidate illegally cast absentee ballots and reverse Trump's loss in the state, an accusation that the South Carolina Republican called ridiculous. Lindsey Graham, how far are you going to go with this BS? It's just the question. It's the crazy part that you guys allowed Trump to get so powerful that even in leaving office, you're afraid to agitate him because of fear of what he can do to his base, which you're using for your base. This is so much of some bitch-assy shit that I've never seen in a young gentleman as yourself, Lindsey Graham, and we know you're not young. But I don't trust you. And it has nothing to do with your allegiances or what partisan side you stand on. It has to do with your character. Your character is flawed, and it's time for you to look in the mirror and wake the fuck up and stop being a little bitch. That's all I have to say to Lindsey Graham. All right? That's all the little parts that I had to say. Did you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, with Lindsey, boy, is he like a caricature of the crooked politician that's like easily like I love I say that possible flip story where Laura Ingram's like, all right, quit plugging your website and asking us for money. Like when Fox News has had Lindsey Graham, that's telling you a lot.
Right. So, I mean, it's just, and again, I'm not even saying, listen, if this was a Democrat on this BS, I call the same thing.
Oh,
we live in the state of Illinois. If you kind of see some of the quips I took at J.B. Pritzker, who's the governor, when we had the Stevie Baez interview. Listen, I don't care.
Yeah, you asked about Dick Durbin.
Yeah, I don't. These are Democrats. I don't like the fact. I feel like if you don't like the fact that Trump didn't show us who he's connected to financially with his tax returns, J.B. Pritzker should be held to the same standard. I'm being as unbiased, I should say, as possible. I'm not being partisan whatsoever. I'm trying to hold everybody to a certain standard. And I just don't like the fact that something as important as the integrity of our election is being played with by a spoiled rich brat, and people are going along with it. It's like at some point we all have to step up. Right. We all need to step up and be fucking adults. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous to say the least. And then again, it's the fact that you have in Georgia a Republican governor, and Trump tweeted out that Ratzinger, the governor, are basically all signed off on it with Stacey Abrams, and it's just making it seem like there's some type of collusion between the three of them. When you know the governor, last thing he wants to do is lose that spot to Stacey Abrams, who was on his ass to get that job in the first place. All right. And the ways that he has been, when he left being Secretary of State, had been sitting there and using voter suppression in Georgia, and how rampant it is, that now when you have a situation where I know there's going to be a runoff, but you're probably still going to end up with Republican senators there that you just lost. Like, why would the Republicans in Georgia give the election to Joe Biden? That doesn't even make logical sense whatsoever. So, and I can't deal when we're stepping outside of logic unless we're talking like sports and some BS, but like in real life shit. No, man, let's deal with some logic and stop being little kids, man. Dude just lost. He had the second amount of votes second highest ever. All right. People turned out. He lost. All right, let's get over this. You guys are adults. Stop acting like kids who got your toy taken away from you. All right. Just get over it. All right.
And,
on the line.
Just real quick.
Go ahead, man.
You know, when you play these games, because this is what it is. It's a show. Like, oh, we have to stay loyal to the Republican side, put on the show. And then probably in a couple months when he's definitely out of there, they're going to be like, oh, yeah. It was all legit in Georgia. It's just like, man, can people just stop playing around with the facade all the time?
Yeah. And also, in a way, too, another thing they're playing with our money. You know what I'm saying? Because they use our money. And I'm not saying necessarily when you look at Trump having his lawyers do this, they lose our money for these little pranks and bullshit that they do, and we think it's all cute and funny unless it has something to do with what you prefer or what you like. That's my little last part of it. All right, on the lighter note, I was thumbing through the news today, and I saw something, and I want to say it made me sad, but I can't say that because I don't watch this show anymore, but I'm always going to have an affinity for it. And it's the fact that after 28 years, Conan O'Brien is not going to have a late night show any longer. Yeah, and his show over the last year, I believe, went to a 30-minute format. He's going to have I think a variety show on HBO Max. So you can still get Conan, but I remember arguing with one of my coworkers because she was a Jay Leno fan, and I was like, "Damn, Jay Leno stabbed Conan in his back." She's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "How the hell did he's going to put a show on at 9 o'clock and do that to Conan? Imagine if Johnny Carson would have done that to Jay Leno. Jay Leno wouldn't have been nothing if Johnny Carson started to do a 9 o'clock show. Like, if you think Jay Leno was big, you didn't know how big Johnny Carson was back in the day. So I was a little kid and stayed up to watch the last episode of The Late Show with Johnny Carson because Johnny Carson was huge. All right. Listen, your people that you like, Jay Leno, David Letterman, Conan O'Brien, all wanted Johnny Carson's job because of what Johnny Carson did in that job. You know what I'm saying? That was the pinnacle of late night talk show hosting. So, man, always Team Coco, but definitely want to sit here and give a little shout out to Conan, man, because his little funny, quirky comedy always appealed to me as a youngster. Like, so it always spoke to me. I forget to say
it was the late show, right?
Yes,
the late night show.
The late show.
Oh my gosh, him after Leno. I would just race to that TV right after Leno's done and see Conan in those skits.
Right. I can think. What was the thing when they had like they put the little cloak around their neck and they be like, in the year 3000, in the year 3000. Like and then I know some people don't get it, but it worked for me throughout my formidable years, basically. You know, so he's been on for 28 years. You know what I'm saying? So we're talking about he started basically when I was, maybe just getting out of grade school.
Yeah, I was like 3.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I was, like I said, I may have been getting out of grade school. If you were 3, like, it's when he started. And the first was like, what is this? And then it was like, it spoke to me. And listen, when Andy left, the worst part is I didn't get back into it, and they formed up again, and I missed the fact that Andy wasn't there because I feel like people, if you didn't get to see when they first started, it was Andy Richter. It was the two of them. But yeah, so definitely shout out to Conan for entertaining us and millions and millions of people for late night all through these years and having the type of integrity and the type of quirky humor that just kept us rolling and laughing with the silly dancing, with the pointing at his hip. Man, so when I saw that, but it's like I said, he's still going to be on HBO Max. It's going to be a weekly, so we'll still get a chance to laugh with the former Simpsons writer. And Saturday Night Live writer also.
I definitely want to see that. Did you watch Johnny Carson at all? Were you?
Yes.
Yes. It was like
I watched
TV and stuff.
I wouldn't say it was appointment, but he was the dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, because remember, there was no. There also, this is another thing too. There really wasn't anybody else because, okay, ABC tried. They had Pat Sajak actually had a late night show at one point. All right. Yeah, Pat Sajak show. ABC tried, and then you had Arsenio, but Arsenio didn't go up against Carson. He went up against Letterman, right? So what you would have was like on CBS, they would have like 4 different shows rotating that played one day out of the week. So like on Thursday, it'd be like Silk Stockings, like these 2 detectives that were supposed to be sexy. Like they show somebody putting on her stockings or whatever. They had like this vampire show. Listen, this is just coming to me right now. They had this vampire show. I think he may have been a cop too. Like, they had like several shows, and that whatever day it was that show would air. It wouldn't play throughout the week. They only had a day, and then Arsenio would come on. And the crazy thing was, when Letterman, because he did not get the Carson job, when he decided to leave when Jay Leno got, so Jay Leno used to guest host Johnny Carson's show. So when Letterman went to CBS, and I used to watch Letterman instead of Silk Stockings and whatever, Forever Night. I think it was Forever Night was the vampire show, right? I think it was Forever Night. I gotta Google that real quick.
Not the Dark Knight like Batman. No. The night of the city that lives forever.
It populated Forever Night television series. Had 3 seasons. All right. Let me see. It ran from 92 to 96. Right. So that's around the time that that's Letterman came over. That's around the time Letterman came over. All right. So no, he came over before that. Actually, I'm wrong. He came over earlier than that, I want to say. But anyway, shout out to let me finish this part. I'm sorry. So Letterman will actually, in a way, I hate to say this, will kind of put me to sleep, and I wouldn't stay up for Arsenio anymore. Like after I watched Letterman, I was sleepy. And not to say that David Letterman isn't funny, but he wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, even though, honestly, I watched David Letterman more than I watched Jay Leno. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was more of a Letterman guy than Jay Leno guy. But, yeah. So when he did that. Yeah.
Because, like, the only reason I brought that up was I never saw Johnny, and I know he's the best. And out of all the other late night, like, one thing that Conan had on the show, they weren't the best. It's like, it's not a Hall of Famer, but it's like one of those really, really good players, and it just had a chemistry, and it had it was like how Big Ticket Kevin Garnett, and then you had Big Baby who was playing really well. Like Conan, he was bringing.
He was better than Big Baby. He was. Yeah. You know who I'll play? You know what? This can lead to another off top. He was Mark Buerhle, who people are pining for to get into the Hall of Fame, which I don't know about that. Mark Buerhle is my favorite Sox pitcher.
I can see it though. Like he was a bad man.
He was consistent, and one thing like Mark Buerhle did, he got in there, he got out. Right, like Conan it was consistent. If you like that style of play, so when using to say get in and got out, Mark Buerhle would have some of the shortest games in the MLB. Like he did not play up there on the mound. He got the ball back. He was throwing it back to his back.
Think of a more dominant Kyle Hendricks. Very fast, but more dominant stuff.
Good point. So yeah, shout out to our guy Coco on your next venture. So look, I'm gonna punt. Mark Buerhle, and I haven't read any of the articles, but I've been seeing articles saying why, perhaps because it's consistency. And I know they're going to use the fact that no one's going to get it 300 wins anymore, but that he should be in the Hall of Fame. All right, I got several problems with that. Mark Buerhle is He's really good. I won't say really, really good, but he's really good. But he never won a Cy Young. He was never one of the top 2 best pitchers in MLB.
You don't think just for a little stretch?
I want to listen.
Couple year stretch.
I'm not the top. Like, I don't know if we could say top 2, because really, if we go back and look at those names those years who won the Cy Young, then
super good.
Yeah, so I don't think, because listen, when I say top 2, I can maybe say top 3 to 4 easily, but I'm trying to sit there and just say top 2. You know,
well, like one of the credentials is you got to be like the best.
You got to be the best
position for yeah. And I think there maybe like 05, 06-ish around there. He wasn't
the best pitcher in MLB in 05.
Because he started an All-Star game, right? Wasn't it like 05 or 06?
He still wasn't the best. Listen, if he was the best pitcher, he should have won. Now you can get cheated from winning a Cy Young. Clearly, you can, but he would have won and probably garnered more Cy Young votes.
And I mean, his period of dominance to me is very short. It might be a season or 2, so it's not like Pedro Martinez, who's just year in year out. Roy Halladay, year in and year out. But especially when 05, he was really good, and I thought he had one of those perfect games in there. Or a no-hitter, and then he dominated in the playoffs. I felt like that's a little bit of a stretch where you can say he was like, if not the best pitcher in the AL, maybe the number 2.
Look, real quick, a look at the career statistics for Buerhle may not present a Hall of Fame-worthy resume. He was an All-Star 5 times, won 4 Gold Gloves, but he only received Cy Young votes 1 time. He never led the leagues in wins, earned run average, or strikeouts. He wasn't flashy. This is from Call to the Pen. Is where I'm reading this off from. So again, he only got Cy Young votes 1 time.
And one other thing I wanted to ask you, they just said he never really led the league in wins. Is that kind of why he wasn't in the Cy Young?
Well, back then, but I'll say this: back then, wins matter. You know what I'm saying? I think when what was it? So Felix Hernandez. What was the pitcher that for the Marlins? Not the Marlins, the Mariners. Yeah, Felix Hernandez. I think he was really the first guy to get a Cy Young who didn't have an assortment amount of wins, just like you saw the Prime a couple years ago. So back then with Buerhle, he would have needed wins probably because he's not striking anybody. He's not striking an assortment amount of people out. You know what I'm saying? His ERA wasn't ridiculous. So he would have needed something to pile on top of that to garner him a Cy Young perhaps. You know what I'm saying? But he was really good. Listen, the fear I have is with power playing Jerry Reinsdorf is that he's about to Harold Baines' situation and put his thumb on the scale. Right?
Is Tony La Russa on that committee too? I thought.
Right. I think he is. I think he is on that committee. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would like. I could listen. This to me, this has Jerry Reinsdorf written all over it. Right? Like, oh, okay. I'm about to. Jerry Reinsdorf is about to do whatever the hell he wants before he gets up out of this bitch.
I got a quick up for grabs that I just thought of right now. Is Mark Buerhle, even if you don't think he's a Hall of Famer, is he the most worthy of the Hall of Fame out of all the past kind of great White Sox? We took a Konerko and some of those other guys around 05, early 2000s, even late 90s.
You can't put Paul Konerko in the same breath as Mark Buerhle. And I always got Konerko's, and I do not dislike Paul Konerko. It's just he was a tad bit too much of a fan favorite for me. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like,
that's what people would say. I agree with you, but people would be really? Like, he's a Hall of Famer.
So the problem what I always thought of with Paulie, man, really, Paulie only had 1 year. And if you're a real Sox fan, I'm not lying, where he was consistent in both halves. Paulie, I'll say this, he was so good, he would make his numbers up in the half to where they would look good and decent at the end of the year. And definitely he had a good glove on him. You know what I'm saying? And he was a leader. You know what I'm saying? He was definitely a clubhouse leader. You know what I'm saying? But when you start comparing, listen, Paul Konerko, and take glove work out of it, but you can add it too, is not as good as Jose Abreu. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the truth of the matter. You know what I'm saying? Like how many times did Paul Konerko lead the league in RBIs? And I know RBI is the biggest stat, but just in general, how many times did he lead the league in RBIs? Mark Buerhle was damn good at his job. Parker was good. Parker was good at his job. You know what I'm saying? But Mark Buerhle was damn good. And he was also someone that was a leader too. And this is for a pitcher. A lot of people feel like if you're not an everyday player, that it's harder for you to be a leader. But yeah, out of those guys back then that you're talking about, I would have to see one. I mean, now I would have to see, and he wasn't with the Sox that long. I would have to see Freddie Garcia's overall stats.
I was going to throw in Jim Thome, but I don't know if he was there long enough to kind of.
He wasn't there. I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying? So,
but I'm saying when you look at just his White Sox.
No, it's his White Sox resume. No, Jim Thome's career resume from Indians with Cleveland baseball team. I apologize to Philadelphia to here. Yeah, it's not even a question that Jim Thome is a Hall of Fame. It's not. That's by all means. He earned getting into that Hall. But yeah, out of those guys, I think you asked a really good question. Out of those guys, probably because I feel like if Maglio would have never gotten hurt, maybe he would have probably been that guy. If Maglio would have always been, he had some good years when he went to Detroit. But if he stayed max through that, Maglio probably would be Hall of Fame worthy. Jermaine Dye had injury problems before he got here that kind of took away from his career.
And Jinx kind of just flamed out a little bit.
Oh, Jinx, you can't even mention Bobby Jinx in the Hall of Fame. And I love me some big bad Bobby Jinx, but that's like you can't just because you're a fan.
That dominance for like
he was the
top three
for the Cubs. He was a top 3 closer at least 2 years, perhaps. You know what I'm saying? Like he was top 3. You know what I'm saying? Him like Papelbon, like he was up there in that time.
Would he be up there?
Mo Rivera, no, hell no. Like Scotty Pine's best year was that year, and I wonder what. But seemed like there was a little bit of tinkering in that off field with some juice. Listen, you talk about Scotty Pine's, but what about that guy that was playing center field with the full mustache, running into walls as a Philadelphia?
Aaron Rowan.
Yeah, what about gunned up Aaron Rowan?
Team leader.
Right. So no, Mark Buerhle, that's a good question. Mark Buerhle probably would he would be the guys out of that team. Outside, of course, Frank Thomas. But Frank's in the Hall too. Frank's in the Hall. So
Mark,
but that's
a good was just super good. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he was a Hall of Famer. I could see though why you would keep him out too.
Yeah, listen, would I be happy somewhat? Because I've always respected baseball's Hall of Fame for being as stingy as it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like that. It meant something to really earn getting into that Hall of Fame. So as a Sox fan, he's my favorite Sox pitcher. Part of me would like it, but a part of me wouldn't like it because it's just – and also it's just like, Jerry, you're just doing whatever to the Hall now, right? It's like you forced Harold through. Now here you go. Like, and it's like, yeah, I'm a Sox fan.
Is that where it started? Is Harold Baines to blame for Tony La Russa's hiring as manager?
Dude, listen, you just tracked that one down. You just tracked that one down right there. That's exactly when this started. Hey, listen, when he pulled that through, he was like, I can do whatever. But if it happens, it will be, I guess I'll be feeling somewhat melancholy. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, you know what? It's the equivalent of what we opened up the show talking about Lindsey Graham. And yes, we're lefty leaning, but if something that seems odd on the left, it doesn't mean I'm going to like it. That's the same way I'm applying this. I love Mark Buerhle, right? But I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. And it's unfortunate, but I mean, that it's a credit to him that he played well enough to get into this conversation. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think if in his heart of hearts, I don't think he believes he's a Hall of Famer. You know what I'm saying? Like Buerhle usually doesn't BS. I wonder if you could ask him, and I'm sure he may not want to answer that now because he would be harming himself if he's like, I'm not a Hall of Famer. You know what I'm saying? But just because you're one of my favorite players,
off the record at a bar with a beer, with
a little juice in him, or in a deer stand somewhere, since he likes to sit there and hunt. But yeah, I don't. To me, something doesn't sit well.
I wouldn't have made a can.
So yeah, something doesn't sit well. But you know what? Let's transition and talk a little bit of football. The Bears lost yesterday on Monday Night Football. They gave Kirk Cousins his first win in prime time, which that lets you know how bad this season is going. What was the score? 13-19, Ryan? Am I correct?
Yes, 19-13.
19-13 for the Vikings. Nick Foles got hurt at the end of the game. This was poetry in motion, to say the least. I did think the Bears could win the game, and the Bears actually could. The Bears defense is playing run stopping. The last 2 games has been phenomenal. To sit there and keep Dalvin Cook under 100 yards after he's rushed for 200 the last 2 games, and it's been mentioned as an MVP, to stop Derrick Henry the week before. And this team has been getting gashed in ways since last season. They've been good defense, but their run defense hasn't been what it was 2 years ago in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
But to see them step up defensively was definitely rewarding. To see Cordero Patterson lead this team in the way that he's doing offensively, from the kickoff returns, also from coverage, to listen. And it's the thing, too. I'm going to be honest with you. Everybody keep giving David Montgomery plaudits over plaudits. I know he's a rough rider. I'll tell you that. But you saw just a little bit with Lamar Miller how he got low in those holes. You saw, like, when we always say, like, David Montgomery's getting hit, and the offensive line did play a little bit better. But David Montgomery's always getting hit in the backfield sometimes. I'm telling you, sometimes it's his vision and where he thinks he's supposed to be going. Sometimes. The offensive lines are terrible. I'm not putting everything on David Montgomery, but just pointing out, even with Cordero Patterson, sometimes with Montgomery, he's dancing, and it doesn't look like dancing is what we would call dancing, but he's hesitant in his moves, and sometimes I feel like he chooses necessarily the wrong gap to necessarily be in. This is the best part.
Jump
Go
on
ahead.
Montgomery real quick?
Go ahead.
That's a 3rd-round pick, and like you said, he's got some dog to him. He's got some break tackle. Like, he has value. But there is just no playmaking, and he misses holes a lot. And you're just wondering, that's a 3rd-round pick. I mean, that's not a nothing. That's
you moved up
starter for the next 5 years.
Did they move up? They moved up to get him.
Up. Yes.
Right? And we never saw him in the passing game. Go ahead.
Yeah, they had no picks themselves, and they traded up to get it.
So, hold on.
And that was the whole point of that draft. The Bears needed a running back. Supposedly, Dave Montgomery was Matt Nagy's guy. He's the perfect Kareem Hunt equivalent. But Kareem Hunt can run away from people. Like, I don't know exactly what the Bears have been doing at that running back position. I just don't get it.
I mean, how many skill positions can you say that Ryan Pace has been good at necessarily solving when it comes to picking up guys like that he drafted, not that he signed a free agency?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely say the same thing right there, that they failed to address and figure out whatever the problems are at the skill position. And even if anybody would bring up Allen Robinson, does anyone remember when John Fox was here and they had like a signing of Marcus Wheaton and like a few of these other guys, and they were going to be your top 3 receivers, and the Bears easily had the worst receiving core all season long in the NFL? Like, he always takes 2 steps backwards with whatever signing, drafting, doesn't matter.
I'm looking for, because it's a comp I want to say I have for who I believe David Montgomery is. And I'm trying to find who was the running back, Ryan, if you can remember, that the Chiefs let go of LT for. He ended up playing for the Eagles.
Ryan Matthews. Ryan Matthews.
He ended up playing for. Yeah. Listen, that's who David Montgomery. Listen, that's who David Montgomery better hope he can be. Now, Matthews had some injury problems, but he reminds me of that dude, like someone who's straight. And we keep waiting for him to be like that dude. But it's like, you know what? He's straight. Like, and I'm tired of people caping for him, because some of that is him. All right. Like, some of that is hit the hole and go. But really, that's some small potatoes compared to the gloriousness of what took place yesterday. Listen, you turn on, it started like what, last week or the week before. You started on national TV, national talker heads blasting them. It just brings us grace. You know why? Because the McCaskey, right? Like, once let's see, if it's only in the city thing, when nationally they're like, what the hell is going on in Chicago? Now we got you. Listen, and I hope the Bears don't win another game this year, right?
Me too.
If the Bears probably finish under 500 for sure. I think Matt Nagy's out of here. Now you opened the show up with saying the truth. The real issue is Ryan Pace. No, Matt Nagy's a big issue, right? But see, if we're trying to get to the cancer, we got to get all of the cancer, right?
You got to remove the tumor.
Right, you'd be like, yeah, just cut half of that tumor out, just half of it now. You gotta leave a little bit of that tumor. Or old line that Biggie said about a pistol or a gun. He's like, don't fill the gun, those bullets room to breathe, right? Which is like, no, BS. Fill the gun up all the way just in case, right? Like you want to sit there and get all the cancer out. And the truth is, Ryan Pace has led this shit show. All right, and has he done some good things? Yes. Some drafting wise, I can't lie, but a lot of the good things come from covering his own ass and signing Khalil Mack when you thought you had a all pro in Leonard Floyd that you moved up to get. Actually, you know what I'm saying? So it's just compounding these issues to see that. And I will say this: I know people was like the offense, whatever with the offense. That offense looked a little bit better yesterday.
Yeah,
just to be honest with you, it did. It looked
between the 20s, it looked better.
That's the girl. I'm so happy you said that because I would have forgotten that part because that's actually what I was thinking yesterday, Ryan. They looked good in between the 20s, but when they got to the red zone, it was stagnant. They didn't know what they were doing, but also Nick Foles was bad too. Yes. Nick Foles was bad. So, if moving forward, I would say let Bill Lazor call these games, right? That's what I would say. More rhythm to it, and the plays made more sense. He played to the strengths, but your quarterback couldn't complete it. Now that pass, that Miller should have had that pass, right? Even though the hesitancy, yes, Nick Foles waited too long. Just like with the pass to Jimmy Graham, dog, get it
horrible.
Like, I don't know. Listen, I know he's shell shocked from getting beat up, but you still gotta throw a man open and not wait for him to get open. You know what I'm saying?
It was like so early in the game. Like you haven't been beat up that much. You can't step up and make a throw now. My goodness, and you miss him by a mile.
Man, Nick Foles,
Jimmy Graham, this massive human being, you miss him by a mile.
And Jimmy Graham hasn't been giving it 100, but still, Nick Foles, man, was playing like doo doo. All right, I'm not happy he got hurt. Be interesting to see Mitch get back out there.
He can't. Shoulders hurt. He's done for who knows.
I don't care what happens right now. Listen, make it bad enough. Make it bad enough so we don't have to watch it.
Right. Get Tyler Brady in there.
Let's get to that point. It's like, man, we're not going to talk about it on the show. What's the point of watching it? But the reason why it's good that this is happening is for us fans. They can't hide behind the BS, and this is what we need. We need to fumigate this house. You know what I'm saying? And this may give the chance to fumigate it instead of sitting here and trying to, we're cleaning the house up. We put the bomb in one part of the house, but upstairs when we put the bomb up, so the critters are now upstairs. Right. As soon as the fumigation leaves, they're gonna bring their ass back downstairs. No.
Right.
Whole house. All right.
Like you went to Home Depot, got these cheap ass things. No, we need the circus tent up now.
Right. And listen, it's to the point where we may just raise the house. All right. Just bulldoze the whole damn thing, right? Yeah, these bugs ain't going. They're part of the foundation. It's time. And I'll tell you why it's time. It's time because you still have a window with this defense. That's one thing Ryan Pace has done. You look at Jalen Johnson, all right? You look bringing in Gibson. And not to say that Gibson is going to be here for the long haul, but you sit here, you look at how well Roquan has been balling out.
Danny Trevathan all of a sudden
is back, right? And listen, especially he better been after Nick Kwiatkowski got that interception, that long interception the other day. I was like, was that Nick Kwiatkowski?
Damn that Nick Kwiatkowski!
Kwiatkowski! But yeah, it's time. And listen, shout out to my former host D. Never been a Matt Nagy guy. Guess what, D?
Nope.
You were right.
You were
right, bro.
You were right. Ken, one thought that I had yesterday, and this is to me why you got to fire Ryan Pace. It's really that simple. There's kind of just two ways of doing it in terms of winning in the NFL. You build such a perfect team that an average enough quarterback can maybe lead you there, or you identify the quarterback that will lead you there because he's so talented and he'll make things up. You know, I'm watching that game and we talked about that miss to Jimmy Graham. It's like, just pretend Russell Wilson was here. Like, he doesn't miss that throw. All these little drops and penalties and miscommunication, that stuff gets erased if you're throwing multiple 50-yard touchdown passes in a game. I mean, there's just no margin for error, right? So, Ryan Pace, well, what did you do in terms of, let's stick with that first thing that I mentioned, building a perfect team. He has not built a perfect team. He's built a good special teams. He's built a really good defense. This offense is the guys he picked, that he wanted here. Why can't we get rid of Charles Leno Jr. and Bobby Massey? Well, because he overpaid them like crazy. You know, these are the quarterbacks. He wanted Nick Foles, Mitch Trubisky. Those were, everything is Ryan Pace's design. So he's not good enough to build a perfect, not good enough to build a perfect team. And then let's look at the other side. What has he done to try to find that special quarterback? Well, he whiffed on two in the draft. He signed Mike Lennon and paid him a bunch of money to do that. He traded for Nick Foles inexplicably because he does just exactly what we thought he would be. He got benched behind Gardner Minshew, and even Jacksonville doesn't want Gardner Minshew as their quarterback long term.
You watch your Gardner Minshew, the second slander.
You know they're going for Trevor if he's there.
Listen, the second and his father there is no first. All right?
I'll give you this. I'll take Gardner on this team in a heartbeat.
I bet you would. With those jorts
on. God, yeah.
Listen,
that's what it comes down to.
But
my point overall is just that he hasn't done it either way. Either building it correctly around the quarterback or identifying quarterback. He's only drafted one. And we're supposed to trust him in this all-important quarterback draft class to just suddenly figure it out? Like, come on.
Man, we may get our boy, though. Now we back in the race, right? We back in the Trifling Lindsey race. Yes, we back. Listen, if this season can go from being 5-1, right, to where it's been a stressful 5-1, this has been the most.
Oh, my gosh.
None of these games felt good. But go from that and thinking, man, they're going to make it to the playoffs and get their ass bounced, and it's going to look like they actually did something, to now they're getting exposed and we can get our quarterback. I'm totally with it.
I know, like we always said in our group chat, they could definitely make the playoffs. And honestly, they still could if things turned around or they got lucky. But the best case, lose the rest of these games. Don't even sniff a victory.
So sweet.
Let's leapfrog the Cowboys in the draft.
Really? Totally. Look, and the fact that and I had him on my fantasy team, and I'm not even a Dak Prescott fan. And the fact that you see how valuable Dak Prescott was to the Cowboys, he kept that floundering squad in every game. Dude, who honestly, who the hell is what's the running back for the? How did it just blanked out on Ezekiel Elliott? No, who the hell is Ezekiel? You pay him,
right?
You
first
running back.
First guy he pays running back.
Oh my God. I can see him in Cabo assaulting somebody right now. But
imagine just Dak Prescott on this team. Like, we don't even know if Dak is a top 10 guy. He might be, might not be. With this defense and how he plays, oh Lord,
it'd be sweet.
You know what we'd be doing right now? We'd be just foaming at the mouth that this is the bye week right before the Packers. We would be like, oh baby, I can't wait.
You know who Dak Prescott is? Physically not the same because Dak can run a little bit, but Dak Prescott is like Kirk Cousins with his shit together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not great, but if Kirk Cousins really had his shit together, you'd be like, that's my quarterback, right? You'd be like, he may not be Brady or Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes, but that guy right there, we good. But we don't have to worry about that slot right there. You know what I'm saying? And that's what Dak is. You know what? We don't have to worry about it. And I hate to say it, it's good that the Cowboys have to face that they spent all this money on all this trash, and he was the straw that stirred the drink. Right? He kept that train on the rails, and just look at it totally fall off the rails after he got hurt like this.
Somehow the Cowboys didn't get the memo that quarterback is the most important position. That's the one you got to fix and pay.
Right.
Everybody else.
Right. Everybody else doesn't. Listen, I know Zeke, especially a few years ago, man, off the charts. But man, I'm not giving you that money, bro. Like I get dog. These kids come out every year now, right? You look at what Jacobs is doing, Edselaire is doing. Like you can do Nick Chubb. You can get one of these cats.
Yeah, right.
All right?
You could get Travis Etienne right now.
Right.
If you're the Cowboys.
I was searching for Etienne. Like you just said, you can get Etienne right now, dog. Clyde Edselaire. What's his whole name? I'm just stumbling on it. The kid.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Thank you. When you look at him from LSU last year and the fact that he was taken with the last pick in the first round, that means he was there for everybody, right? He was there for everybody. You could get you one of those, to say the least.
And even look at the Raiders. I think that was the same draft where they got Josh Jacobs. Maybe it's the year before, and they did it around 20. Like, yeah, you can get those running backs and maybe get them younger.
Right. So yeah, I wouldn't have given them that. But getting back to the Bears, it is upsetting. I'm sure you're upset, but there's a little bit of rainbow in this situation. And if you listen to us, we're giving it to you. There's something to be happy. If you really want to see this team win a championship, you know we can't go on with this false administration. Right. It's not going to happen. And we're going to wait. We'll give Ryan Pace a decade at trying this. When all of us know he's not that cat.
I think both of us don't think he's necessarily bad. He's just not good. He's just an average GM at best.
He should be someone that is in charge of some personnel. No, he should be in charge of pro personnel. All right, because that's something that he can't hit on. And he should have some. He should be in a draft room. Not just with the first two rounds, specifically the first one. But he needs someone to be over him to tell him no. He just can't have a full run of the decision making because that's just not his forte for the most part. Particularly when we're talking about higher up in the draft. Listen, everyone can whiff on a first round pick. You can't consistently whiff on them because you end up having to overpay free agents to cover up your whiffing. So. Again, as Bears fans, does it suck that our Sundays are spent watching this team and thinking about what could have been? Yeah, but in your heart of hearts, you know what could have been was never going to become. It was never going to come to fruition. So it's just let's stop lying to ourselves, like we said in the early segment about some other folks. Let's be realistic. Let's get rid of Nagy. Let's get rid of Ryan Pace. Let's give this organization to some great personnel person. All right, bump them up. And let's run it like a first-rate operation. Like that's the real thing. This needs to be run like a first-rate operation. Let's stop running it like it's not the charter team in the NFL. Let's run it with some pride.
Cleveland or something, or like
good point.
Cincinnati or something.
But you know what? Even Cleveland at times throughout, like Carmen policy, like they've at times it just didn't work. They put a great mind at the figurehead in that organization, right? It just didn't come to fruition. Right. And so even an organization like that, and that's a couple owners ago, you still see they gave it a real go at it in trying to get it right. We've never had that here where someone wasn't getting promoted really or learning on the job. They brought in somebody, a Bill Polian, right? They've never been the same type of team that will bring in a Bill Polian. And they need to bring in a Bill Polian type now. That's what they really need to do. They need to stop this. You got this defense can be good for 3 more years at least. And there's going to be some overturn, but you got 3 more years with this defense. Give that young quarterback, get him in here on the cheap. All right. Right. So you still got more cash. Let's get some offensive linemen.
That line that pushes people and let's move it.
So yeah, man. I was sitting there and I was watching. I forgot what I was watching. I was watching NFL Countdown, or the NFL show that comes on before the game, and they were talking about how basically defenses are like that's a trick scheme, a razzle dazzle, all right, defense. Like they try to trick you, and offensive line is what I'm going to tell you in running game, but there's nothing to it. They're not punching you in the mouth. It's just Matt Nagy doesn't know what he's doing. That's just the truth of the matter, Matt Nagy doesn't know. You took somebody that Andy Reid had just started giving real responsibilities to, right? And you gave him a whole team.
He should have been a caller.
Right. Look, we should have known this was should have happened. He should have been offensive coordinator, right? We would have found out he sucked, and we would have been like, at the end of the year, we got to get an OC, right? But to give a guy that, yeah, he was the OC, but he wasn't the play caller. So he's only OC in title, not OC in duties. All right, you can't do that. It doesn't make sense. And I've been a person that said I love Matt Nagy, so I was wrong. All right, so let me come to the court's floor and say that. But look, but just the crazy thing, I, as a person, now, as Shakina sit here and be like, man, I said this about Matt Nagy, so, I'm not going to call him and get fat. No, I just own up to being wrong. Like, it's so easy in this world if you make a mistake, especially if you didn't cost someone their life and you didn't commit a crime, just own up to it and keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to D again. D was right. I want to make sure I give D as many applause as possible because he definitely always said that. And now Matt Nagy has proven him correct that, this dude, I wouldn't let you be my OC. I may let you be a quarterback's coach, right? Like I may let you do that, but I wouldn't even let you be my OC now, man, because you all messed up. Y'all shook up.
It sucks too. Like, I don't want to defend Matt Nagy at all. I feel exactly how you feel. But, if Ryan Pace maybe got him an offensive line that could punch someone in the mouth,
he wouldn't use it. He didn't want to run. He didn't want to run the rock.
I get it, but maybe he'd use it more. Or if he had a quarterback that could throw the ball accurately. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like Matt Nagy's just going to be better, but how well can you do with terrible personnel?
You know damn well Matt Nagy told Ryan Pace to get Nick Foles. That was on Matt Nagy too.
Oh, that's totally fine.
All right,
but I'm sure Matt Nagy told him, get rid of Mitch.
Listen, I can agree with that. But you know what? The thing is, what we're getting to is now since Mitch hasn't been there, and yes, offensive line has been bad, but it exposes that it just wasn't Mitch. Like, that's the thing. And also, if it exposes that it just wasn't Mitch, what was Matt Nagy doing for Mitch? Because if we're saying Matt Nagy can't coach, then he can't raise up a quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like, he can't help a quarterback mature and, like, matriculate into what you want him to be. Like, that doesn't, like, he's being exposed. And if he's being exposed, this not when I just said he can be an OC, I'm going to the things that I could trust him with. I think I could trust him to be in a quarterback room, being a guy that was a quarterback in the arena league, being in the quarterback room and poured out some things and maybe help a quarterback because he's not the guy calling the plays, saying he's not the head man. But outside of that, I don't trust Matt Nagy with a lot. You know what I'm saying? I hate to say that, but it's really just the truth. Like, and I'm not capable for him, man. He hasn't proven diddly squat. And if he did not get out to such an unexpected jump that first season, his ass would be done after this year. Clearly, he'd be done, and it wouldn't just be a question; it'd be a fact.
I agree. I just wonder if maybe different team. Does he have a slightly better perspective? But I guess it really doesn't matter much in the end. But
it's great.
I just hate how, it's a common theme. I thought Lovey got the short end of the stick too. How many years of endless first round busts that were not good picks, and Lovey had to deal with how many teams that were a little bit under talented. And I don't want to make a ton of excuses for Lovey because I thought he needed to go too.
He was time for him to go. It was time for him to go.
Like, everybody that we've seen in Chicago has been at best average. Would really help a coach if the GM could actually put together a really great team.
I'll say this too, just real quick, to jump on the Lovey point. Let's not forget that there was a point where Lovey gained some power. So even some of those picks, we got to look at Lovey a little bit because Lovey, after going to that Super Bowl, had more control of this team. That's why Riverboat Ron was sent to packing because Lovey didn't want him behind him, which also was a flaw in Lovey because Lovey never wanted to hire anybody that was good enough to take his job in case he had those lean years where if you had a good assistant or coordinator behind you, someone would promote that coordinator. So I don't want to just sit there and make it seem like everything was cool with Lovey. There was also, even when it gets to the drafting, he had some input into that draft. But thing with Ryan Pace, and I think this is why you really can't trust him. He can't self-evaluate. Period.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't. I don't know if it's ego or he just can't do it. But he can't.
Ooh, good question.
He can't self-evaluate. Like you'll be lying to yourself if you thought he could. from last year. See, and last year the excuse was Mitch. So I was like, man, damn it, if I had his quarterback here. But even back then, I can remember hearing Dan Bernstein say, I don't know what the hell this offense is, right? Like, what exactly is this offense? You know what I'm saying? And it's got a lot of Bear fans know it's got a lot of razzle dazzle on it. You know what I'm saying?
And it's never like actually only razzle dazzle.
Actually, I don't even know if it's got any dazzle. It may have a little razzle.
Like a steak when it's like super fatty, and you're just like, oh, I gotta eat all this fat. There's no even muscle here. Like it's all razzle dazzle all the time.
Yeah, just bristle.
I don't know. It's insanity to me. Like Ryan Pace has built probably the worst offense I've ever seen in my lifetime.
It's not a question. It's not a question. I don't believe in my, and dude, I've seen Harbaugh and all he had was Tom Waddle, right? And like, so I've seen some bad
Tom Waddle.
Yeah, I've seen some bad getting. Listen, he got his clock clean, but he held on to that rock, right? Like he may have been out cold. Tom Waddle held on to that rock. Don't ever let anybody fool you about Tom Waddle. Tom Waddle's tough as nails. Man. Right, but slow is paced, but tough as nails. But I see some terrible Bears offenses, and I said this to myself 2 to 3 weeks ago. It's not a question; it's the worst Bears offense I've seen in my life. And it's compounded by the fact that they got talent on the team. This makes it even worse. They got skilled players that are decent, at least. Allen Robinson is better than decent. Jimmy Graham. I don't know how Jimmy Graham. I watch Jimmy Graham's body language a lot, and I'd be like, I don't think I could trust that enough.
Definitely great player. But Darnell Mooney with a good scheme, you don't think this dude would be exploding on the scene here?
Right, dude. Like, all you need, dude, is to sit there. You got to get offensive lineman free agency. I don't know who you got to cut, right? But you got to get I don't know how much, and I know when we were sitting there. I was on Shauna Meyer and Lester Wilfong from Windy City Gridiron was on, and I asked him about the money for what's the other
Bobby Massey, Charles Leno,
no, the edge rusher they brought Robert Quinn.
Oh, Robert Quinn.
And he said, Robert Quinn, I think after next year is when the money isn't necessarily prohibitive if you getting rid of him, which I knew, right? But he also pointed out this. I'll say this. He said that Robert Quinn hasn't been given a chance because we all know, basically, he didn't say this, but I'll paraphrase it. He's not a run stopper, right? And the Bears haven't been able to stop the run. So we haven't really been giving Robert Quinn because he hasn't been out there basically in a situation, and also because of the offense. This is the point he made. I said the run stopping point. He made the fact that the Bears haven't been basically playing from ahead because we know from growing up, when you play from ahead, you let those edge rushers pin their ears back. I'm just telling you from playing football, it's nothing better than a coach telling you, don't worry about nothing, just rush the quarterback. Like, don't worry about the running back. Don't worry about what he's no. Don't even worry about that. Just go. And like when your coach tells you that, you're like, for real? Right? Like he tells you have no responsibility, just go. You're like, okay, great. Like, and you sit there and those edge rushers haven't been put in this position because they've been playing from behind basically majority of the season. Right? Actually, I think majority of the season for the most part.
I mean, even when they go, they have to have in the back of their mind, don't go too hard and make a mistake because then we give a touchdown, game over.
Right, because we know offensively we can't do anything. But yeah, they have to, and think about it, the cap is probably shrinking because of the pandemic. But they got to get offensive linemen in the draft and through free agency. That's just the truth of the matter. That's one way to start to shore this up. But this is more than one season because you definitely got to get rid of Charles Leno Jr. Like, and I know that you can't get rid of him. You may not be able to get rid of him next year. You can kind of solidify the stuff around him. But after next year, he needs to be on his way down the street. And I mean, I don't care where down the street is, as long as it's not Chicago.
Hey, and Ken, to add to that, if maybe you have to put a very expensive Charles Leno Jr. on the bench because you're forced to draft another tackle and he's playing better, that's what you do. That's your mistake, and you live with that, with Leno being on the bench.
And listen, even more of what you're saying, and like you're saying, who really want to do that? One, if you clean out Ryan Pace, the next guy didn't sign him. He can do whatever he wants to. But what you would do have still with Leno on the bench, and again, I don't know how punitive the rest of his money is as far as dead cap money. I want to look into that. We'll guess we'll kind of have that for you for the next show. But if you did do that, you would have a very talented swing tackle down there. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm saying a bench guy. Charles Leno was a bench guy, but it's hard to have a bench guy making the type of money. And he doesn't make supreme tackle money. You know what I'm saying?
No.
He makes some real straight tackle money, but he doesn't make tackle money.
But it's
whatever.
enough money to make you want to throw up with how much you're committed to him.
Right, especially years on top of that, and
especially you throw the other right tackle. He just has another contract that you can't break out of on top of it.
Right. So if I had to deal with to keep one of them, I would probably prefer to keep Massey. Some people would say that they wouldn't necessarily agree with that. But yeah, these are the things that you must do. I would say they're not even the things you need to do. These are must-haves as far as correcting this team and taking advantage of the window that you still have while it's somewhat open.
Exactly.
All right, let's switch over to a little bit of the boys of summer. Found out today that Theo Epstein, president for the Cubs, is he president on the baseball operation side?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Theo, who everyone knew was going to step down next year because he believes in only having a decade run with the franchise. This was his 9th year, decided to do the right thing and step down now and let Jed Hoyer be the guy to make the decisions that are going to be basically how the Cubs move for the next 5 years, as far as what are you going to do with the core players and who are you going to trade. And he gave him David Ross, and which looks definitely like it's a good pickup. His manager's better than my manager that I got is drinking and driving and with. Say, man, I'm a made man. You see this ring right here?
Harold Baines.
I'm a made person. You trying to embarrass me? You know who Jerry Rice stuff is. But anyway,
you see this ring?
So Theo stepped down, and he's going to let Jed decide the future of the Cubs. Since Jed was going to be here anyway, he's going to let him be the head decision maker, which I'll tell you why I think is admirable. Because if Theo didn't, let's just say they did whatever, because the stuff that's coming out as the Cubs about to make some moves. Whatever took place, if it was really good, would have always been given to Theo. So let's just say the Cubs are in the World Series again in 4 years, right? People wouldn't say that that's Jed's team out there. They'd be like, those are the guys that Theo had traded for before he left, right? Mm-hmm. This now lets Jed fully step from under the shadow. Yes, I mean, we would think he had some input into the David Ross hire, but still, you know what people say about managers, and he got a good manager. But as far as when it comes to what you're going to do with those core players, I know if I was Jed, I would want to be able to decide it, because I would hate for Theo to make a mistake, and especially if he chose a mistake and it wasn't mine, but I would have to live for it as the new president moving forward. Well, you're the Cubs fan here, so what were your thoughts?
Yeah, it was bittersweet, because obviously losing Theo, I mean, the guy brought us a championship. Can't ever say anything negative about Theo. It sucks that it kind of spoiled out in the end, and we talked about this. All the time, and I was going to bring it up earlier. The Cubs fans were happy we got the World Series. We're a little bitter that it didn't play out as smoothly as it did that first World Series, and that we just never got back, really. And even though they got to another NLCS, it was always clear that it's the Dodgers' time. Like, they're the team to beat every year in the NL right now. So it's definitely feeling like a proper time to have a fresh start and have a separation, because the Cubs, they probably headed for a rebuild unless they can figure out some trades that make them stay afloat in the short term, and maybe through some drafts. I know we got the kid from Chicago at shortstop. Maybe some of these young guys start stepping up, because right now at the AAA and AA level, there's just not a lot of guys that can come in and be big-time players for you at the major league level. And with Jed, too, we'll see what he can do. He's learned under Theo a lot. I think that the Cubs are in a good spot in terms of being structurally organized moving forward, so it's at least a positive. Where we just talked about with the Bears, even if they were looking for a new GM, how are they going to do it? Because they don't know what they're doing, so that same irritating process is probably going to play out the same way every time. With the Cubs, it kind of feels like maybe there's some stability now, And with Jed, who's he going to bring in to kind of fill in his spot as general manager? Maybe are there some guys that are up and coming with this staff? Because I think like the Cubs kind of need some new ideas and some new approaches because they have a bunch of guys that can hit home runs, but they're not really hitting home runs and they're just striking out a lot. And your pitching is aging out really quick without a lot of replacements. So it's a tough job. And I don't envy what Jed's going to have to do. And I just wonder how he's going to approach it, maybe differently than Theo. And to your point, probably a good thing overall, an admirable thing from Theo to step down and let Jed do it how he wants to do it, because you're right. Like, you are at that crossroad where whoever makes the next decisions, like you're on the line. If Theo made the decisions to trade a bunch of people, Jed might be on the line because he's the only one there, but everyone's going to look back at those as being Theo moves. Now, it's like you said, these are Jed moves. What does Jed think is the best way to get the Cubs back to competing? And that's going to be the other weird thing, too. They won the NL Central last year. Like, you're supposed to be a division winner. How much can you really change? How much do you want to subtract? And being a realistic Cubs fan, a decent amount of change has to happen for them to really start getting back to World Series contenders in the NL, at least.
Look, let me ask you this. Now, he may want to go out and make a name for himself, but what about with Jason McLeod? I know he was a finalist for the Angels job. What about him just making him the general manager? Since he already has such a good relationship with Hoyer.
Yeah, I mean, Jason McLeod's been talked about as a very hot GM candidate in years past, especially a few years ago, right around 15, 16. I think that would be great. Maybe that's more of Theo's guy than Jed's guy, and he wants to go somewhere else. But certainly I heard the favorite for the Angels job is not at all Jason McLeod. Why not keep Jason here and continue that stability? And I'm sure with how well they work together, you would think that synergy might be more efficient and hasten some things up, but we'll see what happens. I like Jason McLeod, though. It just right now the Cubs have a little bit of a player development issue, and that's not always the easy. Yeah, exactly.
New eyes when it comes to that pipeline. Because you thought that those guys were going to keep turning out prospects. Of course, they weren't going to be drafting high, but still we're going to be able to find guys and nurture those guys into filling in some of these roles and being cheap talent so that they can still go out and spend some money in free agency, especially, or make trades during the season to bring in top talent to continue the championship run. So, yeah.
And be the Cardinals, basically. That's the standard you're trying to be.
With money, with real money.
Yeah.
I want to thank Theo. He broke 2 curses so far. He says he does, not right now, but he does look at himself doing this a 3rd time as far as running the organization. But he's not going to do it next year. He helped the White Sox because he did it here, and the team I thought when he was doing it, I was like, the Sox need to rip this down right now. They should be doing a rebuild as the Cubs doing it. You don't want to sit there and become what happened, where you let them rise, even though they were already prominent, but prominent as winners.
Right.
And you were sucking when you could have both been bad together, right? Like that to me made more sense financially. But maybe they were looking at it as they can convince the people to come to their side of town, which they didn't. But yeah, I still want to thank Theo because he's terrific at his job. There were some failings. There were some mistakes. But you know what? Most people make mistakes that are put in those type of positions. Everything you're not going to hit on. But for someone who is so young, he's just 46, and to have ended Boston's championship drought and then came and did the same thing to Chicago, man, you are a master at your job, and I wish you nothing but the best moving forward, dude. Do your damn thing.
Yeah. How about, here's 2 meatball comments before we end. How about Theo going to the Bears and then the Cubs go ahead and get Rick Hahn and bring him over?
You better listen. You know what? I wouldn't listen. I'll tell you what. I would be happy for Rick Hahn.
Oh, right? Baby.
I'd be happy for, because I'd be like, Jerry did that to you. You know what I'm saying? Like you do it in a listen. I wouldn't feel like he's doing it in my face as a Sox fan. I'd be like, he's doing that to Jerry because Jerry was disrespectful. Oh, yeah. Jerry disrespected that man by not letting him find the partner that he wanted for what he did with his team, as far as, well, the team that you let him decide the players on, because that's not Rick Hahn's team, because clearly Jerry decided to let his buddy become the next manager. But I wouldn't even be mad at Rick Hahn, man. Listen, screw Jerry for what he did to Rick Hahn. It was not right. He did it to Kenny too, because I don't think Kenny was like, yeah, bring it on the Russo. You know what I'm saying? Like, screw Jerry. I wouldn't. Listen, I'll tell you, this is another point you made. Theo will figure out to do something with, you know what Theo would do? Hire really good football people.
Probably.
Right?
Probably.
That's what Theo would do. Hire really good. He'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna hire some people that know, right? Like, that's what Theo would basically do. I wouldn't even look at it as being crazy, but we've seen it. We've seen Cleveland just had a baseball person running the organization a couple years back, so we definitely seen it before. But yes, again, shout out to Theo doing the admirable thing, and also shout out to the Ricketts too. And I mean, I know I shouldn't, but
yeah, he's
they fueling what's going on in this country right now. But as ownership, I think it's smart because everyone knew that Theo was out after next year, and to come to some consensus that all of us come together. What's best moving forward? You're gonna move on. Do you think he can handle this? Of course, we know you think, but let's be candid. What do you think is the best thing, both of you, as far as moving on? You know what I'm saying? And that's how organizations should be run. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just going through the motions when you know somebody's going to leave. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, whatever can set us up best moving forward, let's do that instead of just playing footsie in this bitch. All right.
Yeah. No, you got to be proactive.
You got to be proactive. As Branch Rickey once said, it's better to be a year early than a year late. And also, who's that color boy over there running so fast? Damn, that boy's running quick. All right. Still sticking with our city sports tonight. When we drop this is Tuesday, but we're dropping this on Wednesday. The NBA draft will commence. The
only bright spot in Chicago right now.
No, listen, that bear spot is getting bright, baby. That bear spot. Listen, it's nothing better to see national people blast the Bears.
I know. That's what gets the gears going up there.
Hey, it's like, oh my goodness, no, it's gotten out of the city. It's not in Chicago.
We're the Bears, damn it. We should be contenders.
But the Bulls have the 4th pick. They're under new management. You have Arturas Karniasovas as the vice president of basketball operations and Mark Eversley as the general manager. This will be their first pick. There's definitely been rumors that perhaps listen to the basketball podcast on NBC Sports Chicago, hosted by one Jason Goff. I was listening to a couple episodes with him and Casey Johnson, and basically one was with Will Perdue, one wasn't. One was with Mad Dog. Little Tony was popping in. Shout out to our boy Tony. Definitely gonna get him in on this show within a week or so. But they were talking about just how this team is set up, and basically does Zach LaVine fit with Arturas Karniasovas and Mark Eversley and what they like necessarily, and it kind of doesn't look like that. Then Tony hit us today and basically said Patrick Williams from Florida State. I did a deep Patrick Williams dive today, very deep, very deep. You know what? I kind of like him, but he's not a go-getter offensively. But he's skilled enough, like the kid could shoot. All right. I mean, he was the 6th man of the year for the ACC. So he only played 22 minutes a game. He averaged 9 points and 4 rebounds, but that's with only getting 22 minutes a game. He's a freshman. The offense wasn't built around him. He can leap out the gym. His physical build is nice. He's very quick, twitchy. His form looks good. I would say the best case scenario, he would end up being slightly more, because I think at this point in his career he may. But see, the problem is you never know with Kentucky, because they never show us what these kids can really do. Nobody knew that Cat Karl Anthony Towns was gonna be that cold from the 3. You know what I'm saying? Because, or even with and I did know this a little bit of Anthony Davis. I was like, that boy can shoot. He just doesn't shoot in college. Sorry, I need to drink a little water.
Drink it. Drink that water in.
But his comp basically is Bam Adebayo. That's what his kid's comp is. It's Bam Adebayo. That's like if everything works.
Is he the same size as
he's
Bam?
6'8", and his wingspan is 7 feet.
Okay. Bam's probably like 6'10", right?
No, Bam's not 6'10".
No, not 6'10".
Because if you think about Bam D'ing up Anthony Davis, and it's show you saw the height difference right there. Like Bam is definitely is power forward size, but he's just long as hell. Bam isn't like a 6'10", 6'11 guy.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? They may listen at max, maybe they list him at 6'9", but he's definitely not 6'10".
Well, definitely that small forward area you could do better.
He's a combo,
a lot better there.
He's a combo forward. They look at him basically. He should be able to switch off on both forwards. Again, I don't know if it's going to be the.
Do you
pick,
like it if that was the pick?
I wouldn't be upset. You know what I'm saying? Because do you know what the thing is? And it goes back to Matt Nagy. It would depend on how they grow this kid. Now, if they grow him into what they think, I'd be straight with it. You know what I'm saying? But if they can't, you know, I wouldn't. Of course, I wouldn't be fine. But after diving into it, I wasn't upset because I thought about Denny. Say his last name, unfortunately.
Advia.
Denny Advia. The kid from the Israeli. I don't know if he's actually Israeli or not.
Yes,
but I
believe so.
Okay. So, but you know, the best international player out there right now. Listen, watching some of his tape, I was really more impressed with his feel for the game in Advia. But watching Patrick Williams, and it's kind of what this kind of makes me make me like Arturas kind of service a little bit more. We know that he has a connection with international players, but to me, if he chooses Patrick Williams over Advia, he's showing that because they kind of have a similar skill set. They're, you know, even though definitely both for playmakers, all right. But Advia is much more of a guy that you would look at as kind of being a forward that you kind of would let run the floor of the team a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But I would think he would be looking at the higher ceiling guy instead of the floor guy. You know what I'm saying? So like that's because I think Advia has a higher floor than Patrick Williams. You know what I'm saying? Because outside of Patrick Williams is probably a better shooter right now.
Yeah, I heard Denny is not that good of a shooter.
Also, this is another thing about Patrick Williams. Patrick Williams, I believe, shot 82% in college from the free throw line. If you don't know, your free throw shooting says a lot about how you're going to shoot in the pros, right? So this kid is lights out because Avia only shot 52% from the free throw line, right? That's crazy.
It can't be a skilled playmaker and not make your free throws.
Right, because we're going to put your ass on the line, right? So looking at that, I wasn't upset. Part of me wants them to jump up. Listen, I guess out of the top three, the guy that I wouldn't want, and I used to want him, this was at the beginning of the year, before NCAA sent his ass home, James Wiseman. I wouldn't mind LaMelo or Anthony Edwards. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't. Mm-hmm. I'm just being honest with you. I had Anthony Edwards was my favorite initially. And I've been on LaMelo, I mean, in general, since I was early on when wait, this kid just drew the 6'7" last year or the year before. I think like me and you, maybe in these basements or something. I was like, no, dude, Shorty's 6'7" now. That's not the same young man, you know what I'm saying, from back in Big Baller days or whatever the damn company named by his father. But I wouldn't be upset if Patrick Williams is the guy. It was a nice article that Casey Johnson put out there. Talking about it. I wouldn't be upset, Ryan, because I could see the tools and it would tell me about what this organization is trying to do moving forward. Because it seems like a heady pick, but also I wonder if they're sending up smoke screens because the Bulls are really one of the teams that people don't know what they're going to do. Like, for the most part, until this Patrick Williams thing came out, people said Denny Avia because of where he landed and also the fact that Arturas Karnisovas has a connection with international players. But no one had a clear-cut sight of what the Bulls were necessarily doing. So it wouldn't upset me if they went and got Patrick Williams.
What's your kind of ultimate situation? If you're the Bulls, you're in that draft room making the call, what do you want for the Bulls?
You know what I would want, to be honest with you? I don't know if Billy Donovan would want this. I can't even say that. Because this draft isn't talented enough, or this draft's ceiling isn't high enough to jump back into it, I don't believe. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see the talent to where it's like, man, I want two of these mothers. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what if you could, let's say, jump back in around 11, 12, and like a Tyrese Halliburton there, and Killian Hayes might still be there. Is that kind of enough to get you want to come back in a little?
I'm a Killian Hayes guy, as you know, with the interview with Matt Peck. Make sure you check out the interview with Matt Peck from Chicago Bulls Outsider. I don't know, keep putting Chicago Bulls in front. Bulls Outsider and Locked On Bulls podcast with Jordan Malley. I'm a Killian guy, so I wouldn't be upset. But what would you give up? Because I can't give up Zach LaVine just for a pick in this draft. You know what I'm saying? If
I heard this floated.
Mm-hmm.
What if you could get, and maybe even Matt said this in our interview. Let's say you did go to like the Rockets or the Warriors, where they want some of these picks, and I don't know if there's somebody around 11, maybe the Spurs or something, if they wanted to add a Zach LaVine because they're trying to win now. What if you got just a young player that you knew what you were getting? He was an NBA player, possible starter, and you get that pick.
It depends on who that player was, because I would want that player to be. He has to look like he's going to turn into something kind of special. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't think this draft has top tier talent. Now, I don't get paid to scout these kids. I don't have a professional eye. So some people may think there's a Giannis. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
In this draft, a guy that you can get down there. And, after a couple years, the situation can turn into where he's an MVP. I haven't necessarily seen it, but that's also kind of the reason why I don't mind the Patrick Williams thing, because, like, the kid's thighs are kind of thick. Like, watching him, like, wait, how big is he going to get, right? But I mean, he's quick, twitchy, man. Like, the kid, he don't look bad. I watched a decent amount of tape on him today, as much as I possibly could while I was working. But like I said, I did a little bit of a deep dive, and the deep dive made me feel better about necessarily picking them up. I just don't know, Ryan. See, I'll say this, best case scenario. I wouldn't mind a team like Golden State, right? Golden State clearly has to have, a number one pick from the Wolves moving forward outside of any pick they got. They had to have it, because that Wolves pick is their pick, I believe. And Golden State, look how bad they were. That's their pick this year, right? I believe that's so. But I know when they made that deal for Wiggins, like, you're not going to trade D'Angelo Russell and take on Wiggins' contract without being given something, I would think, in draft capital. So what I'm trying to get to, teams that have a lot of draft capital, I would be willing to take on. For instance, I'll take Wiggins' contract here, right? Just so if you're going to give me like top ranked picks from the Wolves, because the Wolves aren't going to be good. Like, look, even if this pick hits, that's the West. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're still not going to be in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Chances are legitimate they're not going to be in the playoffs. It's like we could damn near run through everybody. All right, the Lakers, the Clippers, right? Denver, Portland, Utah. Right.
Got to count the Rockets for now.
Well, let's leave them out. The Suns, right? Mm-hmm. Now, who are we missing? Let's not forget how talented the Pelicans are.
And Sacramento was just outside.
We know who I didn't mention? Memphis.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to now. Listen, they can fight for that eighth slot, like you said. Well, let's still put Houston in there. If James Harden is on that team during this season, they're going to be in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? James Harden's going to average about 30-something odd points. They're going to be in the playoffs. So, if I can get my hands on some more capital, because next year's draft is supposed to be damn good. Because I'm not looking at – I know Bulls fans like, man, I'm ready to start winning. You know what? Unfortunately, you had people put this franchise in bad situations. And I don't want Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley to look at this as a win-now situation when they need to be building a foundation. Now, they got a win-now coach, and I hope he knows, listen, dude, it may take us about 2 years before we really get to this cranking, but I would rather do that, and I want more draft capital into next year's draft. That's what I want. You know what I'm saying? Because, again, part of the reason we brought these guys here was for their eye. And I want to use their eyes to bring in quality talent, not guys that have 3 dimensions, but guys that maybe have 3 that can turn into 5, or a guy that has 4 that can turn into 5. Like I want guys that can be like, man, you know what, we can use this player, or we know how to get the full potential out of this player. That's what I'm looking for. So I don't need them to just say this is the last time we're gonna be in the lottery. You know, like I don't. Now watching this, if the Bulls have a great season, am I gonna be upset? No, I'm not gonna be upset. You know what I'm saying? But still, let's build the foundation up.
Yeah,
you know, like that. Go ahead.
When people say ready to win now, you ain't ready to win. You are not ready to win now unless you've got that dude. Like,
Right.
you can win some and be in the crappy East and get eliminated. You feel much better about that? Does everyone forget when the Bulls, before Derrick Rose hit that level and Tom Thibodeau came in, when they were just constantly being bounced by the Cavaliers in the first round? Like, that's what you want? I get it. It's better than this. It's better than this, but you ain't winning until you get that dude.
To your point, and let's go back to that, all right? Guess what? John Paxson's about to get fired, right? And think about it. All that talk of, man, he brought the Bulls back by bringing these high ceiling guys and Heinrich Dang and Ben Gordon. That we had gotten full off of that and didn't want any more of that course. You know what I'm saying? We didn't want any more of it. We wanted more, and it was to the point where the talk was, dog, if he didn't land Derrick Rose, that ass was on the line. So to your point, do you remember that? And is that what you want? Because I don't want to be middling. I want to be sensational, especially with basketball. You know, my God, it's nothing better than having one of the top 5 players in basketball on your team and rewinding those crazy ass highlights. Did he just do? It's nothing better. That's imagine like, oh my God, this is what basketball is really like. And this is for people, or particularly me. I grew up with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen on my team. All right, like, dude, it was on WGN. I felt like I was stealing by watching Michael Jordan. I'm like, I get this for free, right? Like, that's how I felt. I want to get back to that. You know what I'm saying? And you, as Ryan said, if you don't have that dude, you're not doing very much in the NBA. All right, because even if you look at a team like the 05 Pistons, that team still had top 5 players at every position, basically.
Right.
So it's not the same, because that's what Paxson thought he was doing with Dang, Heinrich, and Gordon. All right. Rip Hamilton was a top 5 shooting guard. Chauncey Billups, listen, he may have been the only one that was fringy. That may have been maybe 6 or 7 in point guard play, but I could say he was a top 5 point, but he might have been fringy. Listen, Tayshaun Prince, defensively and offensively, was a top 5 small forward at that time.
That was one of the best two-way players in the NBA.
Right. And in Kentucky, you never knew he was going to be that type of defender when he got to the league. Rasheed Wallace was a freak of nature.
Oh,
all right. So listen, at worst, and this was when the league was full of power forwards, he was the 4th best power forward at least.
Yes.
But if he was the 4th, at this point he was better than Dirk. All right, this wasn't Dirk that beat the Heat. You know what I'm saying? He was better than Dirk. You had KG, you had Tim Duncan, who's a center. You know what I'm saying? You had Chris Webber, he may have been hurt.
I think he has a microfracture.
Chris Webber was hurt now because he had just come back and played Carmelo well in that playoffs, the first round with Sacramento against the Lakers. So Webber wasn't even the same guy. Just showing you the type of talent that you had at power forward. And Rasheed Wallace was clearly a top 5 center there back in those days, just because of how outrageous his off-ball defense was. But I mean, just showing you like Joe Dumars, except on blowing up the Carmelo pick, but Joe Dumars, you know what I'm saying, put together a nice batch of talent. You know what I'm saying? And
all those guys were a shade under an all-star. I mean,
right. Well, no, they were all-stars. Dude, all those guys were all-stars. No, I'd only one that may not have been all-star. I don't know if Tayshaun Prince was, but I feel like there was a chance he was. No. All those guys, maybe not Chauncey. I could be wrong. That's who I'm right. Yeah, I could be wrong, too. But also remember this, they probably got voted in after Detroit won the championship, too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So guys
to your point, you know, maybe Chauncey's 4 in the East and the top 3 guys are like mega superstars. But when that mega superstar has one of the bottom 5 shooting guards next to him, one of the bottom 5 small forwards, it's like, that's what makes that team so impressive. If you got top 5 guys everywhere, it's like going to the Y and just seeing those like practical professional dudes just running each game.
Right. So again, I want to see what this new front office with clean eyes, who are actually professionals. Now, they didn't have these jobs before, but they're actually been professionals in organizations that have nothing to do with the Bulls or having a connection with the Bulls, which has always been a prerequisite for a Jerry Reinsdorf hire, damn near. So I want to see that. So I don't need this to be a flash done in a flash. Like I said, I want to get back into next year's draft. So I will be interested in seeing somebody, making some type of move. I'm not the biggest window guy as Matt and Tony are, Tony Gill, because I think, one, he may be injury prone, and two, I haven't seen the defense that he showed in his rookie season to a certain degree. So I don't look at Wendell Carter as being untouchable. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't. Like, he's just not that off the charts freaky. Like if he was, listen, Wendell Carter could be the same dude. If he was literally like leaping out the gym, I'd be like, keep that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Right? I'd be like,
combine Tyrus Thomas into him?
Yeah, if he was just freakish, right? Like, whoa, this kid is crazy. Yeah, I'd be like, keep him. Definitely keep him. You know what I'm saying? But I don't see it. Look at Laurie having more talent than Wendell, but Wendell definitely having way more fire. Laurie, his engine runs low. It burns slight. But yeah, I wouldn't be upset. Go ahead.
That's why, for me, like what we talked about with Matt yesterday, I loved how he pointed out point guard. Like, it would be great, even though I'm not the biggest LaMelo guy, but if he fell to them somehow, man, I would love that pick. Like, just to get a playmaking dude that is legit with his vision and his passing. Like, maybe that's the kind of stuff that wakes Lauri Markkanen up and some of these other guys. And then all of a sudden, you've got a decent little bed of players, and you might still have a lottery pick next year. We'll see. I mean, maybe they can contend for a spot because the East is weak, but we thought that they might contend this year. It wasn't even close to contending. So you might be right back in the lottery, but with like almost like the Pelicans when they're in the lottery, where you're thinking, man, they got a decent little group here, and now you're getting this piece. And like you said, next year they're talking mega draft, mega prospect draft. So if you're in the lottery for that and you get some really nice pieces and get your kind of foundation set for this next superstar draft pick to come in, maybe you at worst are the Clippers ready for Kawhi and Paul George.
Dude, real quick before we switched up for grabs, I can remember playing in my friend's backyard. We play basketball almost every day, particularly in the summertime. And for some reason, he's taking a shot. He was like the point guard for us. He's taking shots and he's screaming out, Shaquille O'Neal, right? Mind you, I hadn't seen Shaq at LSU. But I went back and asked him, I was like, wait, all Shaquille O'Neal do is dunk. Why the hell are you screaming Shaquille O'Neal, right? But the thing is, Shaq coming into the NBA was like, oh my goodness, right? Like, oh my Lord, right? So Orlando, this fledgling franchise, gets Shaq. They get him. They had a flying line like Nick Anderson was already on the team. They had Scott Skiles as their point guard, the tough, honorary SOB. And they have Shaq, and Shaq plays well enough to, I believe they were 39 and 43. I think they were a game out of the playoffs, right, in his rookie season. They were one game, I believe, from making the playoffs, right? F around, and Pat Williams' ass, the Lucky Charm, who used to be a part of the ownership, I believe. I don't know if he was he might have been vice president of the Magic back then. They hit on the damn lottery again and get the number one pick a year after getting Shaq at number one. All right? I mean, yeah. And that was Shaq, Alonzo Mourning, Sean Bradley, Christian Laettner, just to tell you some names. So if you would have got second and you end up getting Zoe, you was straight. Just to let you know the talent. They sit there, hit number one the year that Chris Webber is coming out as a sophomore. All right. Shaq talks them into flip. Nah, don't do that. Trade down and get Penny. Right. But basically, they had the number one pick. Right. They flip flop with Golden State, and they end up with Penny and Shaq. And they didn't suck Shaq's first year, really. So that's, even to a certain degree, that's kind of even what we're saying. If you can sit there, get a good foundation pick this year, show us some highlights and direction that you're moving to, and then get that piece. And now it's like, all right, lottery time is over. You know what I'm saying? Now it's time to let's look for some guys to fill around these guys that we got. You know what I'm saying? Like, then let's start talking. So best case scenario, that would be the best thing to play out with the Bulls moving forward in the future for me.
Yeah, I would love to see it. Like, again, if the worst thing that they can do is get a legit number 2 and 3 on a championship team and you're just missing the 1, I'll take that. Because you can't, I believe the Bulls can sign a free agent. I do believe it, even though there's no history and it has never happened ever. But I think that they can do it. It just, you got to build that bed where people want to come here.
Where someone looks at it and be like, you know what, if they had me, man, we'd be winning titles.
Yeah.
You know,
where it's like that's simple. Like
right.
Yasmani Grandal to the White Sox. Like, it was like no brainer. This team is about to go somewhere. This is where I want to be geographically based on where I've been living. Let's do it. Like, Giannis. Calling Giannis next year.
Yeah, but listen, I don't think they made those moves that they made yesterday, that the Milwaukee made for Holiday and Bogdanovich. I don't think they made those without know-how to Giannis' stand, and he about to sign that mega stitch. Giannis was digging in trash cans pouring grease, right? And you have to say, man, listen, the league is going to go through some financial problems because, we may not be able to have any fans in here. And you got what the owner of the Golden State Warriors talking about spending $30 million to have rapid tests so they can have at least half capacity of that brand new stadium. Think about it. They got a brand new stadium that they pay for themselves and they can't use, right? Like, it's like, dude, I'm trying to get back to getting in the black. You know what I'm saying? We're in the red. We trying to get back, like, at least Jerry Jones has a few years of using the Jerry Dome to try to get back into the black. You know what I'm saying? But you got this building, like maybe $5 billion, but $1 billion stadium they built, and they didn't use any public funds. And this time, listen, I want to make some money. So when you're looking at that, and Giannis to the point, I don't know if Giannis is gonna be like, man, I'm about to play around and try to see about winning the championship. Like, hey, we can give you 200 of them bad boys right effing now. So again, and Milwaukee looks like they may be good. I mean, they've been good, but I mean, what have we always said about what's the number 2? What's the small forward from Milwaukee? I'm really blanking out today.
Chris Middleton.
Thank you, Chris Middleton. We've always been like, dude, that's a 3. Like, Chris Middleton is not, and I don't know if Drew Holiday is truly a number 2, even though, I mean, look at his numbers. Shorty averaged 19 and like 6 this past year.
Apparently, if you ask all these NBA players on the record, who's like the best not named, like who's the best player that nobody talks about, everybody supposedly says Drew Holiday.
Yeah, Drew Holiday gave you that business. Remember him giving it to the Bulls when he was in Philadelphia. But yeah, you have a dog?
My sister's dog.
Okay. She totally threw me off. But still, when you look at that now, and because it looked like they weren't going to be able to do anything, especially letting Malcolm Brogdon go. But now it's like, okay, y'all got a few things. Also, see, another thing they have now, they have pieces to move. See, when you're in a city or state where unfortunately we're in the same situation, but it's not a destination where players want to play, you got to have assets to trade. Now you have 2 more assets, with 3, because Middleton. So now you got assets to try to move around. If this doesn't work, like Giannis, I know it doesn't work. We're gonna get so and so and so and so because this team wants these 2 assets from us. You know what I'm saying? So you never know. You know what I'm saying? You never know. I would love if Giannis would come here. I feel like it's the same like LeBron. Like it would have been crazy if LeBron left Cleveland and came to Chicago.
You know why it would have been crazy too? Because that would have made basketball the mecca in Chicago.
True. But the point that I'm trying to make is we know how these Midwestern cities envy Chicago or have disdain for Chicago because we the shit.
We're better.
Right. And if you left Cleveland and came here, Cleveland fans would have been, it would have been much worse than going to Miami. Right. And now if Giannis leaves Milwaukee and goes to Chicago.
ball, please. I need this. I need this in my life.
Milwaukee would just shut down.
I'd be partying in Milwaukee. I'd just have my junk out colored in Bulls gear, wriggling on down. Your city sucks.
So I think that makes it even harder. But yeah, I would love definitely for Giannis to be here. But you know what time it is, though?
Is it that time?
It's that time. Time for Up for Grabs with Ryan Bukoveski. Ryan, what do you have for us?
Well, let's stick with the NBA because it is hot right now. When you talk about NBA draft, all these trades flying, there's rumors on top of it. Is James Harden going to go to the Nets? Blah, blah, blah. So I got to know from who I know is a huge NBA fan, yourself, what's intriguing you the most right now of all the news of the NBA, or what's tickled you the most, whether it's draft, trades, rumors, whatever?
I'm not tickled because listen. I go back to Kevin Durant being like the year that LeBron, D Wade, and Chris Bosh came together was the year that Kevin Durant signed his extension after his rookie deal. That extension that you have to sign, where basically you locked in for like 7 years with the team that drafted you. And I remember him being like, "Man, this is how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna keep it low key. I'm gonna be just like this." Mind you, he was a shorty. I remember thinking back then, dude, you don't know how you're gonna be in a few years, right? And to see, like, all right, you already went. You basically were on a super team that Sam Presti put together. You went to a team that you should have beaten, that was a championship team and won 73 wins. You joined it, then you complained that it didn't feel right when we all told you it wasn't going to feel right because it wasn't organic. But again, it's your life. You have to find out. But now to be like, man, I got Kyrie something, and then I'm gonna throw James Harden on top of it. It's like, come on, fam. It's like, first of all, let's spread some of this talent out, right? Like, we gotta, how like in overseas, how they only allow you a certain amount of Americans on your team. You know what I'm saying? We need to do that with like stars in the NBA, right? Yeah, like you can only go off like all-star games. Like if you how many all-stars you can't. No, you guys can't play together because he got Thor.
You see LeBron like bricking it the last game of the year just to get under star status.
You're right. That probably would happen. But don't vote for me.
I got a 0% shooting percentage in the fourth. There's no way I could be a star.
So look, I'm all for. I was all for. I told you this. I would love to see Harden in Miami because I think if he would accept that culture, man, they'd be dangerous having a scorer like that because that's what they need. They need someone who can get a bucket at any effing time.
And just create. No, you're completely right. That's a terrific fit. I'd hate to see it, and I hope I don't see it at all.
Why would you hate to see it?
I got no want to see Miami in the finals or winning a finals anytime soon.
What's because of Jimmy Butler or because of what? Pat Riley?
Yeah, I think it's the Pat Riley, the stuff with the Bulls and the Heat all those times. Because you got to remember, one time I was just a young meatball Bulls fan, and D Wade and Shaq were doing some work against our boys back in the day.
Hey, they also remember the Bulls knocked them out the playoffs.
And D Wade definitely cost the Bulls getting any LeBron James or Chris Bosh, and he loves Miami. So anything Dwayne Wade loves, I have to hate.
Okay, I can see that. I can feel that. But yeah, and then I would have liked to see him go to Philadelphia, but I wanted to see him go to a team that already wasn't ultra loaded, like the damn Nets. Like I mean, like they got a little squad there. Like the fact that they have to give up those uber role players, they got some sweet role players in Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert. You know what I'm saying? Like they got a little squad over there. But it's like, and then I don't even know how it will work out, but it's like just having all that talent in one place. To me, sometimes like the NBA, y'all, you can do better than this. You know what I'm saying? Like, that kind of like it hasn't tickled my fancy to say the least. The trades that Milwaukee made, it's cool, but they had to. Like we all knew from what Giannis unfollowing them and then seeing the ownership talking to him in the following days and telling him we're gonna do whatever as far as going over the cap to sit there and getting penalized to bring you a championship. So that wasn't necessarily shocking.
Drew was pretty good though, right? For them, like compared to
Oh,
Westbrook or Chris Paul or some of those other names.
Westbrook is Giannis, but he's just 6'5". You know what I'm saying? Like that's basically who Giannis is Westbrook. He's just a 7-footer doing it, right? So it would have compounded the problem because he's like, what? So what now we're gonna do? Have Giannis go out to the arc while Westbrook is breaking down people getting into the paint? So that wouldn't have made.
Turn into hockey. They do the flying V running towards the basket.
I think Chris Paul. It was cool to me, but I think he's better with the Suns because the Suns had they already got somebody who can go get it. Because actually, the problem with if Chris Paul would have ended up in Milwaukee, you're going to be looking at him at times to be the guy to close the game out. Which at this point in his career, I mean, Chris Paul over the last 6 to 7 years is a much better shooter than he was when he was back with the Hornets early in his career. You know what I'm saying? Specifically from the perimeter, because he was not a very good perimeter shooter. But I don't know if I want Chris Paul at this age to consistently have to be my closer.
Yes.
And also, and this is my only problem with Chris Paul and the Suns. It didn't happen last year as much, but Chris Paul gets hurt a lot. You know what I'm saying? No. So, like, I would hate to be dependent on, like, imagine him going to Milwaukee and, like, they start off and they're, like, 30 wins and 5 losses. Then Chris Paul's, and it's like, damn, here we go again. Where you don't have that type of injury history necessarily when you're talking about Jrue Holiday. So I think Jrue Holiday was the better fit out of those two guys, out of Westbrook and Chris Paul, because he's still young enough to do it offensively and defensively.
And he's always there. Does he even get hurt?
Right. No, I don't think so. And also it helps that now you're looking at him as not being and I mean, he wasn't with Anthony Davis there, but I mean, Anthony Davis, I mean, he's more skilled than Giannis, but Anthony Davis is not Giannis. Giannis brings that bitch every night. You know what I'm saying? Like he's bringing it. He's a beast. You know what I'm saying? So you give him that guy. You know what I'm saying? And talented vets. I mean, you look at, they still have Brook Lopez, Bogdanovich. They still have Chris Middleton. Like that's not a bad little squad they got right there. They got a squad that can win in the playoffs now because in the half court they can get to action. They don't have to worry about Giannis just coming downhill all the damn time. So that's what I like about what they did. But again, I think it was expected. I not expected who necessarily they were going to get. But even though Bogdanovich had been leaked to them, but it was straight for me. What about you? What has tickled your fancy, son?
I actually kind of like that Chris Paul to the Suns a lot. I think with him, the floor general, and especially he seems like what we saw last year in OKC, that he really rubbed off well on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, what if he
look at Snyder? Look at Schroeder. Look what he did for Schroeder.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And now he might do that with Devin Booker if he can kind of raise his game to be more mature of a superstar. I mean, that dude, he just seems like, that light bulb away from getting it,
Right,
and they've got all those pieces in the draft that just like with Ayton, and I forgot the kid out of Kansas a few years ago. They have a bunch of these mismatched pieces, and who better to bring that together than the best floor general maybe in the NBA, and Chris Paul. Like, if he can stay healthy, because that's a great point, he does not stay healthy. But with such little responsibility on him, other than to be a distributor, I think they can do some things with his minutes, and all the pressure is going to be on Devin Booker anyways to make sure that team wins. I love it. I think that might be the type of thing that maybe doesn't boost them into contendership, but that maybe they're that OKC team that surprises at a 5th seed and is a really tough 5th seed in the Western Conference Finals.
I agree with
the Western Conference picture.
And I meant to say this. I think that one was the one that I liked the most because of everything that you said. Also, I think Chris Paul is going to have his foot squarely on DeAndre Ayton's tuchus to get even more out of that young kid. And also,
what they might be able to do in the pick and roll together.
That's what I was just about to say. Don't forget that what Chris Paul did for Tyson Chandler, or young Tyson Chandler, when they got together. And DeAndre Ayton is way more skilled than Tyson Chandler. That lob game is about to be crucial.
Hey, DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, those guys, good players, but without Chris Paul, probably not looking at them as good as they are looked at now.
Yeah, so definitely, I agree with you. Even though Blake did improve, like when Chris Paul got hurt, Blake showed you as far as being a facilitator what he could do, and that he had more of an all-around game. But he's just not a player that you can count on to be that guy for you. You know what I'm saying? Like he just
He's
wasn't
probably a 3, right? On a championship
he's
team.
probably a 3 on a championship. I would say that. He'd be a sweet 3. Healthy Blake Griffin would be a sweet 3 if he knew his place too. You know what I'm saying? But he'd be a sweet 3 on the championships. I totally agree with you on that. What you got next?
My last up for grabs, going to go to football. I saw this update before we came on the show, and I thought it was very intriguing just because we talk about Pro Bowl with the NFL, and nobody watches the Pro Bowl, and nobody cares about the Pro Bowl, and it is one of the most boring things out there in terms of an all-star game of any professional sports league. I have always been a big thing. They should try to, make it more like the NBA, have like that skills contest be kind of the main focus and just try to figure out ways to do that. And you've got those robotic dummies now. Like, I think you can maybe add some technology and it would be kind of cool to see them do those things. But the idea this year with COVID, instead of having these players play and have to worry about the COVID potential, they're going to do it virtually, i.e. through Madden 21. All the Pro Bowl selectees will be on their respective teams, and I believe from what I saw, there'll be different positions because you can be, lineman, whatever. So I think EA is going to try to set it up so that all of these players can play at once virtually on the football field. And I was wondering what your thoughts were with that, if that's a cool idea for the Pro Bowl in general, and just overall what you think that spectacle could be.
Okay, so back in the days, and I don't know if you saw any of them, but it used to be so great when Randall Cunningham was in them. They used to have QB competitions, right? And Randall Cunningham would sling that rock 80 yards, if not more, like through the uprights damn near, right? It just was crazy, right? You'd be like, damn, right? Like it used to have like names up in there. But I'm with you on the competition. It was funny, I was thinking while you were talking, and this is my preference with going along with what you're saying. If they could set it up, for instance, like offensive linemen, like you're saying, robots, we can see like how quick you coming out at the snap, and how hard you're hitting that dummy, right? Like, damn, you see how hard he hit that dummy?
Right, and like that boxing thing where it measures the force, you can just see who hits the thing the hardest.
If you can sit there, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and for every position, you know what I'm saying? Like the quarterback, how quickly you can get out of your break. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we could get that, even though I guess the more athletic guys, it definitely benefit, but it'd be something for the guys that are technique guys that also. I'll be for that. I feel this is unfair because what if I don't play video games like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's
they usually for the Pro Bowl do like a week of practice, and I'm wondering, do you get a week of practice with your Madden spot? Like,
listen, if you think
get the O-line controls down in a week.
Look, real quick. If you think that you had to send me to Hawaii for me to show up for this shit, right? And now I'm going to be at the crib, and you think I'm going to spend a week practicing on some shit that I usually don't play? You crazy.
Well, they could still maybe send them to, well, they wouldn't go to Hawaii because now they moved it to Miami or Florida or whatever.
They're going to send them someplace where they can play video games in the hotel room separately. Like I'm saying, they're not giving me a trip.
You could do, like, what if it was like the NBA bubble and they're just sitting there with their controllers on PlayStation 5 playing Madden?
We may as well put some pads on these SOBs to get them out to play.
I also think it'd be fun because, like, you would have to do, I think, like, get a camera on every single person with the mic. Mm-hmm. And then, like, what if Quentin Nelson, the famed guard of the Colts, let's say he is just suddenly the AFC quarterback because he's the best quarterback in terms of playing the video game with Patrick Mahomes. I think that would be pretty entertaining. And then see like Mahomes play a different position on the video game.
It's gonna be, I mean, for us who, we grew up with video games. I mean, all these guys grew up with video games. So there's aspects that I can find entertaining, but it's not my preference. I guess
we can't have Andre Whitworth in the Pro Bowl. Him at like 40 is not going to be able to play any video game.
Right. So that's
Tom Brady's like, what do I do here?
You're sure?
You got any Pong? I'm really good at Pong.
So yeah, that for me. But that was interesting when you get said that one. It was like, oh, okay. Like it's just gonna get to a point where we're just gonna have to kill the Pro Bowl. Let's just be honest.
That's what I'm saying. In terms of the Pro Bowl being totally trash, and we want to get rid of it, is this anything that could maybe like at least make it interesting compared to what it's been now?
I got what you could do now. The pandemic will have to be going on. I mean, I guess we'll have to have vaccines that we trust. Don't have any type of long-term effects, and enough people have taken them to start building a herd immunity. You know what they used to do? My father used to tell me stories about, and it's like, damn, man, they didn't do that when we were growing up. They used to have like the all-pro team face the college all-stars. Like, we always sit there and talk about, yeah, man, if this college team played this team, you know what I'm saying? And,
yeah, but then you're gonna throw in the draft. Everyone's be like, "You're gonna be hurt for the draft."
That's what I was about to say. Now, because people wouldn't do it because of the draft, but I would love to see, or like I think the college championship team. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. I could be wrong, but they used to have those type of exhibitions. That would be interesting to me. You know what I'm saying? Like something like that, I would kind of find interesting. But again, like you're saying,
the old-fashioned best college football team against the worst football team, and
exactly,
the NFL, and see which one wins. We'll finally get the experiment.
Those college kids would get smacked. The trenches would be the real tail of the tape. But again,
those New York Jets would never look better all year.
Sam Darnold is slanging it. He's still throwing interceptions like he at USC and in the pros. But again, one thing I'll say this: because of the money, I wouldn't want these kids to get hurt coming into the league for my entertainment sake like that. Even though they do it for free.
And that's what's tough in the Pro Bowl in general, right? Like, we all would love a very competitive Pro Bowl in theory, but I think every football fan would rather none of those guys play and be 100% healthy, especially after you went through car crash after car crash. For meaningful games, I don't need you to do something that's just a sideshow. Now, when you do it virtually, maybe that's a solution.
I totally agree, but that was a good one right there.
Are they going to get the smoke going too? They should make that mandatory. Everybody's got to smoke beforehand. Like everybody high on video games playing.
I just read as hell. Man,
I can't see.
Oh man, but yeah,
that was stuck. That's your big toe, bro.
Oh snap, Ryan. Oh snap. Is there anything else?
No, I guess that's all. We talk Cubs, we talk Bulls, Bears,
Lindsey Graham. Conan. We'll
ended it off.
We'll run around the show. Come here. We're gonna give you a little bit of everything. Ryan, keep up the good work. We'll definitely be back with the flip. We took this past week off, and then Ryan was sick. Ryan, we all wish you just healthy and speedy recovery. We're happy that it's not something really serious. So that's definitely a blessing. So we'll be back with the flip. Me, Ryan, and Sydney Brown. And giving you more interviews about this upcoming draft, and also giving you our takes on what the Bears need to do. It's just going to sound like this show, but funnier, because we'll come up with a different spin on what they need to necessarily do moving forward.
I think, are going to have to champion the firing of Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy and get the credit first. So we'll be working on that for sure.
I see you, wise one. I see you. So again, everybody out there, be safe. We always appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us, and we'll talk to you a little bit down the road.